days. We are starting a new book. This is The Broken Heart of America, St. Louis and the Violent History of the United States. There's a bit of a trend where what happens in St. Louis tends to be where the rest of the nation goes, and as someone who has been stomping around St. Louis, obsessed with St. Louis, loving the people in St. Louis, it's a sick place. The people don't want to be suffering, and yet suffering keeps going. So let's read about it. You've got this delightful little map. Oh no. Yeah, this is a map of the city, some labels. Coolio. Prologue, Mapping the Lost. Oh, this is written by a dude named Walter Johnson. We'll learn more about him in a minute. Or maybe a different stream. I'm gonna read just for a little while I'm waiting for the meetup. Prologue, Mapping the Loss. They have torn down every house you've ever lived in. The house on Kennerly is gone. Aunt Jenny's house on St. Ferdinand is gone. This is Minnow. The flat over Mrs. Scales' bar, gone. The house on McMillian, gone. And all the others mushed in a new riddle of one-way streets leading to vacant lots. Not one damn map familiar and comfortable. That's from Colleen McElroy, A Long Way from St. Louis, a travel memoir. The architectural history of a once great city lies packed into crates in a warehouse near Cahokia, Illinois. Molded cement pediments, stained and structural glass, ornamental cast iron, wrought iron, and mild steel, stone columns, friezes, reliefs, figural sculptures, doors, windows frames, and full wooden staircase. These are remnants of banks and breweries, churches, courthouses, dairies, department stores, foundries, greenhouses, hotels and hospitals, our libraries, the mortuaries, the museums, pavilions, post offices and poorhouses, schools, stadiums, and steel mills, all of the row houses that lined one side of a downtown square, the red brick Gothic classism of the Little Sisters of the Poor, and the Beaux Arts Lindell department store, the Ralston Checkerboard Company's grain elevator, the fortress-like 1st District Police Station, the 19th century skyscrapers that once lined Real Estate Row, the city of St. Louis, torn down, pieced out into elements, catalogs, and then packed into crates. The archaeological remainder of a city that once harbored the ambition of being among the world's greatest, carefully curated by a visionary demo man, perhaps awaiting the city's second coming. Across this Mississippi River, back in the city itself of St. Louis, pieces of the past lie jumbled together and scattered around the foundations of the city's 30,000 vacant houses. Windows boarded up, roofs collapsing in on themselves. Many of these houses have been repossessed by the city, delegated to the St. Louis Land Clearance for Redevelopmental Authority for resale. Some can be bought for as little as a single dollar. Thousands of poorly maintained parcels of property on the city's north side have been bought up by neighbors or speculators. The population of the city today is just over 300,000, roughly the same number as 1870. And around 1/3 total of the population in the 1950s. The city has been left behind by its population. Middle-class whites and some blacks have moved to the suburbs. Meanwhile, the neighborhood of poor blacks and some whites have been torn down around them. It is a truism that the struggle of American cities in the second half of the 20th century were due to white flight. There is no doubt that St. Louis whites moved out of the city in droves in the years following the Second World War. But the story of the human geography of St. Louis is as much a story of black removal, the serial destruction of black neighborhoods, the transfer of their populations according to the reigning model of profit and policing at any given moment, as it is the fault of white flight. Of the city's abandoned houses, it is perhaps fair to say that they are worth more dead than alive. The deep burgundy bricks, so smooth they seem almost glazed. Hi, I'm from America. Hi, Atif. Good to see ya. I'm glad you're here. We're doing some learning. We're doing some reading. the broken heart of America. We can hear my little dog sniffing and snorting right next to me. Her name is Minnow. She's an excellent co-pilot. Oop. I moved my phone from its perch and now it's come over. Okay. All right. Of the city's abandoned houses, it is perhaps fair to say that they are worth more dead and alive. The deep burgundy bricks, so smooth they seem almost glazed. Hello! They're molded out of clay from pits on the city's south side, fired in kilns of its famous brickworks around the turn of the century. These sell for 50 cents a piece today in cities like New Orleans and Houston. You gotta use historic bricks to fix your historic building. Hello, hello everyone here. Forgive my dog, she's got a awa awa. These bricks were molded out of the clay from pits on the city's south side and fired in the kilns of its famous brickworks around the turn of the century. They sell for 50 cents a piece today in cities like New York and Houston. For many years, there was little regulation in the demolition businesses. Row houses, brownstones containing anywhere between 20,000 and 40,000 bricks were easy money with anyone who had a pry bar and a pickup truck. Even today, when demolition companies must be licensed and teardowns authorized, there are indeed rogue demo folks called brick rustlers. The brick rustlers who break into abandoned houses. They steal the copper wiring, the iron plumbing, the lead counterweights out of the window frames. That's the thing that you open up your old-timey window and it holds it open. Counterweight. Some will set old houses on fire, knowing that the water from the firemen's hoses will soften the mortar, making the bricks easier to salvage and scrape clean for resale. So many of the houses in North St. Louis have been torn down. Some of the neighborhoods look like rural farmsteads. There's clusters of houses and vast open spaces. Oh, thank you. I'm really glad you're here. St. Louis today has the highest murder rate in the nation. This is an older statistic, I think from pre-pandemic. Things have been changing and the powers that be that measure crime have been changing the ways they've been, counting crime and how these things are changing. So we need more eyes to scrutinize. This is Minnow. Ugh, she smells. Are you Hindu? Oh no, Hindu's cool and the Bindi's cool. This is not that. I have a pimple and then a bunch of pimples because, greasy American. But thank you for asking. So we have brick rustlers who set houses on fire. Not all of them. Some of them set the house on fire. The water makes the mortar break apart. You can scrape the mortar off the brick and then sell these ancient bricks a little easier. So many houses in North St. Louis have been torn down that it looks almost like rural America. That's where I'm from. God help us all. St. Louis today has the highest murder rate in the nation at the time of writing this. And this book is from, hello, what's the copyright? Copyright is 2020. So this is right before the pandemic. St. Louis today has the highest murder rate. Again, 2020 stats. So, double check that and verify that. That's 65.8 per 100,000, which is around 4 times the rate in Chicago, the 13th highest in the world. And the highest rate of police shootings in our nation, that's 5 per 100,000. There is an 18-year difference in life expectancy between a child born to a family living in the almost completely black Jeff Vanderloo neighborhood in North St. Louis and a child born to a family living in the white majority suburb of Clayton, which is less than 10 miles away to the west. Indeed, significant differences in virtually any marker of social well-being in the city: rates of adult diabetes, childhood asthma, levels of lead in our bloodstreams, internet access. It can all be charted down to a single line, and this line is Delmar Avenue, which bisects the city between north and south. And while our law is desegregation, that didn't really happen like it needed to, which, yuck. Just over the city line, St. Louis County boasts 3 of the 25 wealthiest suburbs in the United States. That's Town and Country, Ladue, and Frontenac. These are places with considerable wealth. And it's not even the obscene wealth that needs taxed at 80-90%. These are just like normal wealthy, if there is such a thing. Let him make sell. Are you, if Trump were trying to make America great again, he wouldn't be invading other nations. That's kind of silly. He's also, you know, one of the most prolific pedophiles ever. Back in the city, standing on streets that, depending on block, contain lead, contend to lead the majority. God almighty. Back in the city, standing on streets that, depending on the block, contend to lead the nation in the density of accidents involving pedestrians, gun murders, payday loan stores, and it's not hard to wonder what happened here. Ooh, controversial. We're going to talk about race. We can't pretend it's not there. If you're colorblind, then you're goofy, or you're missing your rods and cones. If you're missing your rods and cones, you get a pass. If you're not, know that the way people look impacts the way others treat them, specifically white people. White people treat people worse depending how they look. Of course, it happens everywhere, but look out for the majority, dear God. From the Lewis and Clark expedition to the police killing of Michael Brown in 2014 and the launch of the Black Lives Matter movement, many of the events that we consider central to the history of the United States occurred in St. Louis. Something important to note, after Michael Brown was killed, we can argue about how fine it is for the police to kill people, okay. It is not fine to leave people's dead bodies in the sun for hours and hours and hours. That's pretty messed up. Much of this history is so well known that its Midwestern origins have often seemed to historians to be besides the point. The Missouri Compromise, the Dred Scott case, the Western Indian Wars, the East St. Louis Massacre in 1970. Girls, you all can make vomit emojis all you want. This is history, and history doesn't care if we don't like it. We need to know so bad things happen less frequently. The Missouri Compromise, the Dred Scott case, the Supreme Court decisions in the landmark civil rights cases of Shelley v. Kramer and Jones v. Mayer, that one was about housing, Gaines v. Canada about education, McDonnell-Douglas Corps versus Green about employment, and the symbiosis of urban redevelopment by bulldozer, the sequestration of poor black people in housing projects. Oh, my peeps are here, toodaloo. You'll have to tune back in later.